You may all take your seats. Good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Sarveen Kaur, welcome you in the Development Dialogue on Science, Technology and Innovation in the New Millennium, Brave New World, in the light of Amrit Kaal Vimarsh Viakasit Bharat at the rate 2047. As our Honorable Prime Minister has launched this as the voice of youth and said, this is the period in the history of India when the country is going to take a quantum leap. For India, this is the time, right time. Idea starts with an I, just like India begins with an I. Development efforts begin from self. Youth power is both the agent of change and also the beneficiaries of change. In line with the Prime Minister's vision for involving the youth of the country in the formulation of national plans, priorities and goals of the country, the Government of India has launched the Viakasit Bharat 2047 Voice of Youth. This initiative will provide a platform to the youth of the country to contribute ideas to the vision of Viakasit Bharat at the rate 2047. To brief now, I would like to put highlights on Purnima College of Engineering. It was established in the year 2000. It is the flagship institution of Purnima Group of Colleges. There are 6 BTech courses: Computer Engineering, Electronics and Communication Engineering, Electrical Engineering, Information Technology, Mechanical Engineering, Civil Engineering, along with 2 MTech courses. In a span of 24 years, institution has added many feathers in its cap and has emerged as a top-notch destination for technical education in India. To grace the occasion, we have with us the chief guest and the eminent speaker, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Indian National Science Academy, INSA, Delhi, and former Secretary, Government of India, Department of Science and Technology, DST, Delhi. Dr. Mahesh M. Bundele, Director and Principal, PCE, Purnima College of Engineering. Dr. Pankaj Dhemla, Vice Principal, Purnima College of Engineering. Dr. Rekha Nair, Coordinator of the event. Head of the departments, faculty members, and students. We welcome you here. To start today's program, I request the dignitaries to come on the stage for lighting the lamp.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रा
I request the dignitaries to be on the stage. Now I request Dr. Mahesh Bundele, Director and Principal, Purnama College of Engineering, to felicitate our chief guest and guest Science Academy, Delhi, Former Secretary, Government of India, Department. Thank you, sir and ma'am. I request the dignitaries to take their respective seats down the dais and invite Bundele sir for the welcome address.
गुड मॉर्निंग. जोश नहीं है. गुड मॉर्निंग. Now it's good. Honorable guest, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, President INSA, Delhi, faculty members and dear student friends, online and offline participants. It's indeed a great pleasure today that we have a very eminent expert in the field of education, in the field of policy makers, in the regulations maker from Government of India and ICT, Professor Ashutosh here. In view of the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who has just launched vision for youth for the development of the nation, Amrit Kaal Vimarsh Viakasit Bharat 2047, which should be the vision of each of you young minds. That is the motto and the objective of our Honorable Prime Minister, that it is it takes a space in the minds of youth of our country to take lead and make it really feasible that we become developed nation in 2047. So 2047 is the target for all of us. Of course, you will be taking the lead. All those who have joined online and offline, you are the future of our nation. In this perspective, we have invited Honorable Speaker from AICT side. They have asked Professor Ashutosh to interact with you and give some inspiring talk on the topic science and technology. And I hope that this particular objective and the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister will be certainly fulfilled by all of us together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the address. Now I would like to take the honor to introduce the guest speaker, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, President, Indian National Science Academy, INSA, Delhi, and former Secretary, Government of India, Department of Science and Technology, TST, Delhi. Professor Ashutosh Sharma is a visionary academician who has made some exceptional interdisciplinary contributions in nanosciences and nanotechnology fields. From 2015 to 2021, he served as the Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is also the Institute Chair Professor and founding coordinator of DST Thematic Unit of Excellence on Soft Nanofabrication and Chairman of Center for Environmental Science and Engineering at IIT Kanpur since 2006. He is a recipient of the prestigious Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award in Engineering Sciences for his original pioneering contribution to the understanding of the behavior of thin films and other highly confined nanoscale systems. He was elected as the president of Indian National Science Academy in 2022. We welcome you here, sir, and I invite you to address the gathering with the development dialogue on science, technology, and innovation in the new millennium, brave new world. Sir.
You have the caller mic. हाँ डिस्प्ले कर लीजिए. नहीं वो नहीं ऐसे यहाँ लगा दीजिए. काम कर रहे हैं ना? हाँ. इसको चेंज करने का कहा है. इसको बंद कर दीजिए. हाँ ठीक ठीक. या परफेक्ट. ये बंद है ना? हाँ बंद बंद रखना. Good morning. I am so happy to see so many young people. Anything I learn now is only by talking to young people. थोड़ा echo है इसमें. It's very hard to learn anything new if I talk to people of my own age. So I make sure that I talk to young people, in fact, younger people. A lot of people think that there are old people in this world. There are no old people in this world. There are young people, me, and younger people like you. So, and of course that you have other younger people, when 5-year-old come to you and talk to you. So, just very quickly, never make the mistake of thinking that there are old people in this world, younger, and younger, right? And it's great to talk to people who are not of the same age as you. So this would be my first message to all of us. If you only talk to people who are your own age, then you would have learned very little, because you know everything that the other people know, right? वो तो आप सब जानते ही हैं कि अपने साथ साथ कॉलेज में पढ़ रहे हैं, साथ साथ स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं, तो सबको वही चीज़ पता है जो आपको पता है. तो अगर आपको कोई नई चीज़ सीखनी है तो यू शुड टॉक टू पीपल हु आर लाइक 5-year-olds to 95-year-old and not really that much to people who are plus minus 5 years of your own age. Why do we talk to people who are our own age? Because there is more psychological comfort in it, but very little learning. So there is a balance between psychological comfort and learning, and we need to take care of both. And so we start with that. अमृत काल विमर्श. तो ये विमर्श है, ये डायलॉग है, मतलब ये खाली मुझे बात नहीं करनी. I will talk for about 1 hour. Then next 1 hour we'll do interaction. So you can ask, you can discuss anything that you like. So I understand that this is a very long program. It's as long as a Hindi movie, 2-hour long program. So if we go a little bit slow, there is no hurry. I mean that we can absorb everything which is going on here. तो वो करेंगे, right? And so Vimarsh means basically interaction. It means dialogue, and this is what we want to do. Other thing is about Viakasit Bharat 2047. तो आपने सुना होगा अमृत काल का नाम, Viakasit Bharat. Amrit Kaal, how many people have heard of it? Okay, few. Okay, so see, next 25 years are very critical, and I will come to that. तो इसको बोलते हैं अमृत काल, but it's not a lip service, it's not a political slogan. And I will tell you why that is so, and what is the role of each one of us in building up this India, which is empowered, which means that each one of us, no matter who we are empowered, we are happy, we are healthy, and we are building up a society that we wanted for ourselves. Okay, so of course, we want to focus in this lecture on science, technology. Science is, of course, the foundation for technology, for engineering, and so on, and innovation. Now, how many people here understand the meaning of innovation? Innovation सब जानते हैं? आप में से एक मुझे बताइए क्या मतलब है innovation का? The first person who tells me meaning of innovation gets a chocolate. Good chocolate. हाँ बताइए कौन जल्दी बताइए टाइम तो कम हो रहा है हाँ
Innovating means to develop something new or to innovate something new.
I see. So you'll not get the chocolate, sorry. In fact, I'm so sure that there would not be right answer here that I'm not even carrying a chocolate. But I can promise to give it. So anyway, we'll learn about it as we go. We'll learn about it and why it is so important that we focus on innovation. And what the hell is innovation anyway to begin with? So we want to look at that. Okay. And then, we all want to know about the future. Everybody is especially younger people. You got a longer future than I do. So, we all very curious about what is happening in future, what is happening now, what is science, technology, innovation, what are the contours of science, technology, and innovation in the decades and maybe centuries to come if you were a policy maker or a planner. All of that, if you're thinking about climate change, you have to think about not only year, not only think about 2 decades, not only 5 decades, but 1 century or 5 centuries, depending on how much, stamina of thinking and planning that we have. Okay, so best way to predict the future is to invent it. It's not about looking up a horoscope and saying, "Wo planet kahan hai, ye kya hai." By the way, how many people here believe in luck? How many people believe in luck? And what do you think is luck? I also believe in luck. So when people come disappointed, younger people, they say usually 2 things. I'll tell you these 2 things before we start the lecture. Often people say, "Sir, this world is not fair." And so of course that I point out that this is actually so, that the world is unfair, and then sooner we start negotiating an understanding of the unfair world, better off we would be. In fact, logically, if you think about it, world cannot be fair. Because if it's fair to me, it will not be fair to you. Because we are in conflict with each other, we are competitors with each other. So any time is fair to you, is not fair to me, it will never be fair. That is one thing. The second thing that people say, which is more important, is basically what I have forgotten now. In getting to the first point, but I'm sure I'll remember it. The luck, yes, indeed. So luck, what is luck, right? So some people think it's some horoscope there, some people think it's planets up there, something. Luck is not that. Luck is very real, but it's not that. Luck is the complexity of this world, the many body interaction, the many things that happen in this vast world out there. The complexity and non-linearity of the world, which we neither understand nor can control. So therefore, what is the outcome of our efforts in a particular direction is determined not only by me, but everybody else, around me, and what is happening. If I may step out at the wrong time, then I'll be hit by a speeding car. But if I waited another 5 seconds, I would be alive. That is luck. Because it's not that it is something mysterious. It is something complicated that I do not understand and I do not control. So we must factor in this. No point getting disappointed. He's saying, "Look, world is not fair, and I didn't get success." The success is a complicated thing. It's an outcome not only of you and me, but the whole world that conspires towards it. Which is why it's so important that the success is always a collective thing. Right? A lot of us, because you have gone through your school, you are in a great, educational institution now. It's because of your IQ, because of your competition, and so on. It's because of that. So we start thinking that the success is mine. Okay, because it's because of my own excellence that I cracked all these exams and got into this great place. And thinking of great place, I'm of course, very grateful to Purnima College for inviting me here through AICT and Ministry of Education. And I'm very, very grateful indeed to Principal and Director Professor Bundale and also Professor Nair and all the faculty that I would be meeting today, and all of you indeed for being here and listening to me. So the luck part plays very important role, and I wanted to say, look, if you have been successful so far, we start thinking it's because I am so great, my IQ is so great, I am so brilliant, and so on, which is partially true. But most of it is true because you were born in a particular place, that you went to a particular school, that you had certain kind of friends and relatives and everybody else. However, failure is our own. If you fail in something, you can't blame anybody else for that. Failure is my own. Success is team. Success belongs to everybody. Okay, but the failure is my responsibility, is my own failure. So as long as we have understood that, we would be successful, in fact, more likely in everything that we undertake, whether it is science, technology, innovation, or it is anything else that you want to do. Right? Now, what I want to do is this lecture, this talk, that thing I'm sharing with you, is not about quantum technologies. It is not about cyber physical systems. It is not about data analytics. It is not about artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's not about CRISPR as a biological tool for gene editing. All of those are very important. But there is something which underlies all of those. Okay, this is about what we do, how we are going to be successful. What is this all about? Right? Whether we do science, we do management later, whether we do anything else. There are some things that we all need to know and understand and put in practice for us to build this nation, to build this society, to build ourselves, that we have been meaning to do. Okay, so let me say some of the Indian stories of success which are based on science, technology, and innovation. So we all, they look very commonplace, but the kind of revolution that they have brought in. Now we have quality higher education, we have quality research institutions across the country, including the private institutions like Purnima, which are providing high quality higher education. And so that's a very deep strength that we have been able to build as a nation, which is recognized everywhere globally. We have taken care of security of food, water, sanitation, green revolution. Just in the 50s, nation didn't have enough to eat. Right? You can imagine the situation where we don't have enough grains, for example, to eat. The green revolution, white revolution, which happened in dairy products, took care of all of that. And then there is, of course, the blue revolution is going on now, is to harness the resources of the ocean. So ocean has been totally neglected. Ocean is the next space, is the final frontier, if you would. Okay, so we are going deeply into deep ocean and looking at its mapping and its resources and what is it that you can tap from it in a sustainable way to aid to our economy. Har Ghar Jal, so this is a new scheme. It started about 3-4 years ago, which means there should be piped water to every house, every household. Now, of course, we live in the city, so we take that for granted. But if you go to rural areas, there is hardly any, you travel sometimes miles altogether to fetch water. So, there has to be water coming in every household. Totally revolutionary, and how much of time and energy it frees up in people, which can then contribute to the economic development of the nation. Swachh Bharat, tractor, health and medical, Asha, we know, India is the leader in generic drugs, which means, bulk drugs which are out of patent regime, so that you are able to make those drugs and supply to the rest of the world. In fact, more than 50% of vaccines in the whole world are supplied, they are manufactured in India. Of course, at the time of COVID-19, we were able to make new vaccines and also rapidly manufacture them at scale. So all of these things I'm saying, while these are foundational strengths that the nation has to build upon. And then, of course, all this stuff is happening. You all know about Jaipur food ventilators and so on. You see, COVID-19, anybody remembers COVID-19 now? It's again happening. I saw that there are some cases coming up. Anybody remembers COVID-19? Okay. When sometimes I teach, I ask people, hey, do you know fluid mechanics? They say, I did online course. Okay, what that means is they don't know, okay, what they did, presumably. Okay, that's what they are trying to say. So, of course, we still don't have immersive technologies to replace the physical sense of education. It might happen in the future. It's going to happen in the future. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But at the moment, we are a little bit weak in conveying immersive experiences through AI. But it's happening. But now come back to COVID-19. When the virus hit, जब वायरस आया, क्या था? हमारे पास कुछ नहीं था, बिल्कुल खाली था. PPE भी नहीं था, N95 मास्क भी नहीं था, डायग्नोस्टिक्स नहीं था, वैक्सीन तो छोड़ ही दो, वेंटिलेटर नहीं थे, कुछ नहीं था, ऑक्सीजन नहीं था. How did all that happen in 3 months? Okay, which even advanced nations could not actually do as rapidly as economically as we were able to do, when rest of the world thought that we'll not be able to pull along at all. I mean, the predictions were very dire. Predictions were horrible. I know that because I was sitting in an office which was coordinating a whole lot of these efforts related to science and technology to fight COVID-19. Every day was a nightmare. You say, oh, how is it going to happen? Right, but it all happened. It happened with speed and scale. And there is a lesson in all of this. The lesson is that, you see, all of this could have been done 5-10 years ago. There is nothing that has changed in science and technology. It could have all been done long time ago, but we did not do it. Why? Because one of the things that we totally fail in culturally and behaviorally and as a society is the teamwork. Okay, have a shared goal, have a shared objective, if you would, and a shared timeline and a shared vision. We often, because we are so good at personal excellence, we only think about personal excellence. We don't think about that personal excellence can do certain things, but we cannot do everything with it. So that teamwork is so important in order to be able to do all of these things. And that teamwork involves different elements of society. What are those different elements? So there is the educational and research institutions which create knowledge. Then there is the industry and startups that use that knowledge to make a product. And finally, there is government, which provides the right kind of incentive and policies to be able to do it. So until you have these three elements of society working together with a common objective and a very immediate shared objective, that the delivery would not happen. So this is a very important message for all of you. It was not there. My generation knew very little about these things. They had something, a conveyor belt. So you get into something or other, and then you keep continuing on that conveyor belt until you come off that conveyor belt at the time of retirement. But your generation has to be more empowered. And I will come to that point in a second, saying what does this empowerment actually means. So here are some more. Of course, there is an information and communication revolution which happened. Anybody knows when email started? You think it was a century ago or 5 centuries ago? No. Email, the first email I used was in 1982 in the US. It was an experimental system between universities only. Okay, so I'm sitting in one place, I'm talking to my friend in Carnegie Mellon University through this typing email. Only a few universities had it, right? Experimental. And I was thinking to myself, I said, this is going to simplify my life. I was right. I was also wrong. And I will come to that point also about the lights and shadows of technology. Technology is a good slave, but it's never a good master. And in fact, we are now approaching an era in which technology becomes the master. And so this is called the lights and shadows of technology that we need to very clearly understand how to understand and negotiate with the technological changes that happen. Because nobody is in control, technology is in control. Okay, don't make the mistake of thinking there is somebody out there who is in control. Nobody is in control. So therefore, nobody sees the long shadows of technology and how to understand and deal with it. Okay. Why was I wrong about email, you think? Today I get about 300 emails a day. And I have absolutely no time and patience to actually open and read them. So most of them go away if you don't pay any attention to them for 1 week. Those who are really important, well, I mean, people will call and get in touch and will get forward. Okay. So it's the same thing when you see the rise of this, the smartphone. Okay. I mean, more and more what happens by algorithms and what happens by machines will control our life. Okay. And this is something you will not understand because you have not lived in an era which was free from that tyranny of machines. Okay, so it looks like a very harsh statement to make, but you will see another 50 years. What happens to this world is totally controlled by machines and algorithms. Okay, we'll come to that. Okay, Aadhaar, DBT. So all of that has been happening. To go forward, now we have been going very slow for absorption. But what I want to talk about is some of the cultural, behavioral aspects of what we do, how we do it, and how we would do it in the future. Now, most of you people are just used to listening something about quantum technologies or data analytics or whatever you think you will find a job in there. Job, of course, you will find there, and you can learn more about it by Googling and by reading textbooks and by going to some conferences and stuff. Of course, all of that. I'm not going to focus on that. So I'm going to focus about what makes all of this possible, because we never talk about it in any of the curriculum. We don't talk about it, all of these things, anywhere in the classes or any structured way. Okay. There are some good things about India which have been happening. For example, let me give you an idea. In 2015, I joined the Ministry of Science and Technology as its secretary in Delhi. At that time, in 2015, there were 100 technology startups that were registered in the country. Just now, 2023, there are over 100,000 technology startups that have come up. How did that happen, you think? It could have happened 20 years ago. It has all to do with, it has nothing to do with your IQ. It has nothing to do with the colleges which are there. Even IITs, everything was there. Right? This very rapid progress in translating our knowledge into opportunities through startup has happened only in last 10 years. And that has very deep cultural and behavioral roots. Very little to do with the education that we receive, but the will of the society, if you would. Several of my own friends, they run unicorns now, companies which are more than $1 billion worth. For example, India is also number 3 in number of unicorns. And so all of that has happened. We also have, India has second largest number of STEM graduates, which is both good and bad. Why, you already know why it is good and why it is bad. Okay, but we produce more number of scientists and engineers than anybody other than China, right? So that's something. This is it's a strength, but it can also be a liability. And it can be a liability, especially if that education is not quality education. And what do we mean by quality education, you think? Quality education doesn't mean that I get a lot of marks in my exam, which is controlled by some central authority. Not at all. In fact, one should know very clearly that education has no relation to content of education, or it has no relation to what is in the books. This is a very hard point to communicate because we have been successful only by cracking those exams, and they have no meaning after graduation in the real world. So the education is not what is in there, is not what has been passively communicated to us in the classroom, but it is the capacity, the ability, and processes of learning something new. Because your challenges will ever be new, your jobs will be ever new. It's not like, oh, I got all this set of courses once and the rest of my life is taken care of. Nothing like that at all. So therefore, education is a dynamic thing. It is driven by the self, the processes of learning, indeed. In fact, I sometimes jokingly tell people, they come and say, I didn't learn anything in that course because I didn't have a good teacher. Do you think that's a valid argument? In fact, on the contrary, I tell them that having a bad teacher is actually good for learning. Because learning is not the business of teacher. Learning is the business of the student. Okay, so you want to learn, be my guest or forget about it. Okay, it's for your own career that you want to learn. So if a teacher is not teaching anything, then I must have the capacity to learn myself if I want to. And therefore it means that I can learn in the future also equally well under changing circumstances. Okay, so a lot of stuff is happening here. Okay, let's come to what is India at 100 in 2047. Now this was pointed out by Honorable Prime Minister in what is called the Civil Services Day in just last year. And he said, look, our Amrit Kaal is not just to laud the last 7 decades. We may have gone from 70 to 75 years of independence in routine. We may have gone from 60 to 70 in routine. But from 75 to 2047, India at 100 cannot be routine. What does it mean? Let me first point out what is the real strength of India today and in the next 25 years. It is a demographic dividend, which means that the median age of the country is some 28 point some years, right? And so what it means is there is tremendous amount of energy and learning out there which is waiting to be leveraged by the society. Now, this great strength, this window of opportunity, the demographic dividend as we call it, is not going to be there forever. So if you were to look at the changing demography of the nation, in another 30 to 35 years, India, like all other countries, will start graying. What that means is that you all people sitting here, the next generation will have to support you, the less young people, which means there is more demands on the society, on the people who are working, right? So therefore, a lot of resources get diverted into less productive aspects of supporting the society. So that is why it is called Amrit Kaal. So Amrit Kaal has nothing to do with, well, who is a leader, who is what, right? This is universal. This is a window of opportunity for the nation. There is no time to lose at all. You can't say, hey, let's have 5 cups of tea, then watch a movie, then do this, okay, then do this, right? Those days we don't have that luxury anymore because the world is moving at the breakneck speed. There are challenges ahead which would undermine our growth. What are those challenges? So I will talk about some of those challenges which are going to undermine the growth of a developing country like India. And if we are not totally ready for it now, then we would have missed this opportunity that we call Amrit Kaal. This is what you call clear and present. Okay, they would say in some Mission Impossible movie or something, right? So it's clear and present, and there is no time actually to lose or to think, okay, I'll go about my happy life and the rest of the world will also be happy and so on. The happiness is not going to happen unless we start building it ourselves. So demographic dividend. And then the next thing, actually I'll not talk about it now, Jugaad, Dhanda and Panga. These are 3 different ways of solving a problem which are more related to innovation ecosystem. I'll come to that in a moment. Okay, so we have done well as a nation, considering that we have been rather sluggish people, considering we don't believe in teamwork, and then, we have done something, but the point is, every day people ask these kind of questions. Okay, and so to address these questions, it is not only about IQ and training. I emphasize that again. It's not about how many exams I can crack. It's not even about how many global exams I can crack, because that requires one kind of training and skills and aptitude. But these kind of questions, which are so important for India, we're saying, look, why one is always a follower rather than a leader? Okay, even you look at, we download more from internet than we upload, which means that we are more into, okay, what somebody else says, what somebody else is doing, I can also do, right? But we are not breaking new grounds in any sector of knowledge. I'm not talking about only science. I'm talking about any sector of knowledge. We are not breaking new grounds. Yeah. Hey, don't fight, you two guys there. These two guys are fighting with each other. Can you please stand up? These two guys were, shutting his mouth. I can see those two guys there. Is he shutting his mouth? No, he was shutting his mouth. What the hell are you doing? Please get out of this lecture hall. Now, should I come walk down there and kick you out? Please stand up and be gone. Okay, now. There you are. Now these are fist fighting with each other. Horrible. This is so impossible. I thought Jaipur is such a cultured city. Okay, right. Yeah. So, be ever watchful. Huh? Be ever watchful. If you find some people who are not behaving, just kick them out. Yeah. Okay. So, what I was saying is, look, we ask all these questions. Why is one risk averse? You see, so we all want a nice job, we want a cushy job, a middle class existence, but no risk taking at all, right? Because risk taking is not encouraged in our education at all. I mean, who say, look, it's okay to fail, but learn something, right? Nobody has ever said that. No parent has ever said that. That it's okay to fail if you learn, right? So learning is not the emphasis, it is some limited success or some idea about some limited success, right? Which cannot build the nation that we want to build. Why is one not connected to stakeholders of science? Why is one negative and complaining all the time? This is so important. Okay, I don't know if you have that experience, if this generation has that experience, I don't know. I know my colleagues, I know how they were even 40 years ago. They are all just basically into saying, hey, अपना देश अच्छा नहीं है, यहाँ कुछ काम नहीं होता, ये है, वो है, my director is not good, my this is not good. If all these things were good, then I would also be good, right? This is all bullshit, right? So basically we know that our own failure, we are trying to transmit to other people and saying, if they were all good, then I would do great, right? This just doesn't work. So why are we negative and complaining all the time? It has nothing to do with our IQ and nothing to do with our training. It has to do with our culture. Okay, it's just the way we are, right? And nobody has paid any attention to look. We have problems like everybody else in this world. But these problems, merely stating the problems is not enough. Unless I am working to solve those problems. So I'm either, part of the problem or I am part of the solution. I cannot be both. And so this is so important for younger people, not to waste your energy by just stating the problems, but saying, look, I am partly responsible, both for the solution and for these problems. So that's right. Okay. And there is, of course, the low self-esteem and associated complexes that go with it. And this is all cultural. And so what we want to do is look at some of this. Let me now come to future and the technological challenges. And how do you actually going to deal with them? Because this is so important that we are fully prepared for these challenges. These challenges are global challenges. They are not even local challenges. So our competition is no longer with my next door neighbor. We feel quite good, my high school I did this, I am number 2 in my class or whatever. All that has no meaning because even that number 2 has only to do with cracking of exams, which as I already pointed out, has very limited purpose in our growth. So therefore, what is the future and technological challenges? Of course, we know artificial intelligence, quantum technologies, sustainable development goals, and so on. And then how do we prepare the ground for the new opportunities? We need a new mind. Actually, we don't need new textbook. And I keep repeating that aspect because it's not easy to convey that at all. We don't need new textbook. All of you know this, the famous song by Pink Floyd. We don't need no education, right? We don't need no self-control, no dark sarcasm in the classroom, and so on, right? But so point is, we don't need new textbook. What we need is a new mind, which is freed of the shackles of the past, some of it aspects, the culture. Okay, so and they'll tell about what makes science and technology work or does not make it work, and then something about the careers, everything that you want to hear. Okay, career. Just remembering that a job is not a career, and so if you want to think about careers, there is a certain way to think about it, and so for a younger person that makes that matters everything. Is how am I going to live my life and stuff. So the first challenge, the rise of intelligent machines. Everything that a human can do, machine can do better. Today, some of it, but certainly within 20 years, whether it is writing novels, whether it is producing art, whether it is writing poems, whether any of the cognitive and creative works, including, of course, the manual works, the machine can do it better. Absolutely zero doubt about it. So therefore, there is a huge challenge about how that impacts the society, how the society is going to be reconstructed, if you would, in order to deal with this technological challenge. Basically, future is all about the convergence of different streams of knowledge, computing on the edge, distributed computing, communication which is fast and stable, making decisions with the big data but locally through machine learning, and doing autonomous decision making and autonomous action through actuators. So all of that you may call Industry 4.0 bundle. Where would this industry go now? From Industry 4, which is the convergence of digital and cyber on one hand, and physical and materials on the other hand, their convergence produces Industry 4.0. Where would it go further? Industry 6.0 and beyond would also integrate the biological in it, which means cyber physical gets into biological, and some of the biological bleeds into cyber physical. I'm not talking about cyborg only, but many combinations of biological together with the cyber and physical. So that is happening now. And so it is not enough just to be an expert only in one area, let's say communication or AI or whatever, or machine or materials, but a convergence of all of them, which is why interdisciplinary ideas become very important. My generation, people took their department very seriously. They said, I am such and such engineer, I am such and such scientist, I am organic, inorganic, green chemist, red chemist, physical chemist, something or other. All of that has very little meaning for problem solving. Okay, for problem solving, it doesn't matter what I have learned. What matters is if I understand the problem. If I understand what are the dimensions of that problem and what kind of tools are needed in order to solve it. And of course, the AI universe has impact on everything that we do. So each one of these, the impact of AI or thinking machines on each of these aspects of our life, it would require about 10 hours of lecturing actually to understand it, which includes learning, work, governance, mental health, judiciary, commerce, medicine, privacy, safety, everything. Right? Very, very interesting. And you will feel the full force of it. I am happy I will die as a free citizen. Okay. So there are several large-scale missions that have been launched by Ministry of Science and Technology. For example, a cyber physical systems mission worth about $1 billion. Another quantum technologies mission also worth about $1 billion, not a million, $1 billion, about 8,000 crores rupees, and so on. And supercomputing mission about the same, which has set up, for example, 50 supercomputers across the nation. These are all responses to the challenges that we have now and that we are going to be facing in the future. Second overarching global challenge for all times to come for planet Earth is sustainable development. So everything we do, okay, a whole lot of you, 50% of your jobs in the future would be related to some aspect of sustainability, sustainable development, and so on. So that has to be emphasized in our curriculum, in our education, and our learning now. Right? So no matter what kind of engineer you are, you should figure out that there are 17 sustainable development goals that you can Google and find out, and sub goals, and see how does your expertise and skills basically relate to any of them, because this is where growth opportunities would be there. But now talking about sustainable development, strictly speaking, sustainable development is an oxymoron. An oxymoron means two words which are pulling in opposite directions. They have opposite meaning. So what it means is sustainability, as we understand, one aspect, and development we understand is another aspect, which is through consumption. Okay, so development, the basic definition of development for about 1.5 centuries now has been if I consume more. And sometimes we don't even worry about if we are consuming in a responsible way. So it is through consumption that development happens, has been the mantra for a long time. This is not totally true, but society has come to believe it globally. So now we are going to reap the fruits of that assumption that happiness is consumption, that development in all aspects is consumption. Okay, have you seen anybody who after having 4 cars became happier by buying the 5th car? Okay, so I leave it at that. But so therefore the assumption that consumption leads to fulfillment, development and happiness is totally found to be wrong beyond a certain point. So we say that, okay. So when we talk about sustainable development, why it would be so important for your generation and couple of generations beyond that is because of climate change, of course. Environment and climate change. Two very major things that one has to deal with through science and technology, but science and technology is not enough to deal with it. What we need right kind of policies, regulations, laws, and the will of the society that say, look, I have to defeat the process of climate change, no matter by how, by hook or by crook, because if you had 3 degrees Celsius temperature rise, it's a disaster. It's a disaster of such magnitude you cannot actually imagine today. And remember that we are not on planet Earth for 1 century or the end of this century. Hopefully we are there for 5 more centuries or 3 more centuries or what have you. So this requires a rethinking, re-imaging, how we have been living all along. And so for example, here is a quote. He said, I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse and climate change. I thought with 30 years of good science we could address those problems. But I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed and apathy. And to deal with those we need a spiritual and cultural transformation, and we scientists don't know how to do that. So, okay, of course the greed and selfishness are not only related to engineers and scientists, they are there in every section of society. And that is the major problem, that if I am an isolated person, not working in team, I have no objectives bigger than myself, then the society is going to fail 100%. No doubt about it. Okay. So now there is a lot of thinking about the new aspects. He's saying we live in an economy which is called extractive economy. Okay, it's a basic definition of the economic systems under which the world works today and for the last 1 century. What that means, extractive economy, is, look, I only take care of the little part, I maximize my profit, even though it may have much bigger adverse impact on everybody else. As long as it is within law, as long as it is lawful, sometimes not lawful, but basically I say, look, I will maximize my profit to hell with everybody else. Okay, so that's so that cannot lead to sustainable development. So there is more ideas about 8% of new businesses are called these are life economy, which means lifestyle for environment, which means you are not necessarily maximizing your profit, but also maximizing the profit to environment, the system as a whole, even though your own personal profit would be a little bit less in that process, and so on. Okay, now I'll come to innovation, the third very major challenge for our society. And I had asked you a question already about what is innovation. Since we have not understood what is innovation, we cannot actually convey that, and we don't know what kind of tools are actually required for innovation. So let me first say what is invention. Invention is a black box. You know, all black box, what it means, whatever color box. Uh, the money flows in this box and knowledge comes out. That is called invention or discovery. And there is a whole ecosystem devoted to it, including colleges, universities, R&D labs, all of that. Those are invention ecosystem. You know, so somebody has to pay for this knowledge, for transmitting this knowledge and creating this knowledge. Somebody has to pay for it. The society pays for it. I mean, each one of us pay for it as tuition fee, whatever. So you have invention where money flows money comes in and knowledge flows out. Innovation is just the opposite of this. So if you can think about another black box which is totally opposite to invention, which means knowledge flows in and money flows out. So clearly, if you are to be successful in invention, you need one kind of skills. If you want to be successful in innovation, you need totally different set of skills, which means translating knowledge into new opportunity. This is what we call a startup. So a startup is a very unique kind of entity. It is like a pipeline. One end is embedded in knowledge, other end is embedded in market. So is a transforming from knowledge to market is what you call innovation. So innovation is not, doesn't have to be a very creative thought. It doesn't even have to be a new thought. Nothing. As long as that thought that we call innovative thought has the potential to transform into new economic opportunity. That's all. Right? It could be a very simple idea. Hey, let us, this aggregating cabs model, Uber or whatever, right? So it's a question of, well, can your knowledge be transformed into new opportunity? How to use that knowledge? Now, if my knowledge has been only bookish, if my knowledge has been only to crack exams, then I don't really know how to create new opportunity with that knowledge. And so while we are all learning in college, what I really have to focus on in that learning is not so much about, okay, am I learning it only for exams? Of course, we have to learn for exams also. But at the same time, as a cultural aspect, can I transform that knowledge into socio-economic opportunity? Why I call it cultural? Because there are many societies. Israel is a very good example, by the way. Every scientist there, even Nobel laureates, all the time thinking about, I have the knowledge, good, but it's not only to get a job. It is basically to create new opportunities. And so all of them basically know how to work with their hands, not only with their brain. And so it requires a certain kind of education to be able to do that. Okay, so let's go there. Okay, then I had done a lot of research on why startups don't succeed. How many here may wish to at some point explore startup? Very good. I think at least 10% I see hands going up. Others may be shy or undecided. But anyway, this is very good. So I did a lot of research by talking to thousands of entrepreneurs, young people like you. Is saying, why don't the startups succeed? Okay, many of them fail, many of them succeed. And I say, hey, how do they fail? This is very important. So when you take the plunge, that one requires diversity is the key. So, if you are an engineer, if you are a scientist, but you don't know how to deal with market, if you don't know your customer, for example, no matter how brilliant an idea that you might have, it will not succeed. So I have seen so many brilliant ideas fail commercially, so to say. And so this has to do with all of these factors. And I especially like losing energy vampires. This is not only for startups, in general. So, we have lots of these friends who are so negative and they are complaining all the time. And if you listen to them 2 hours a day, one would become a zombie. Okay, totally walking like this without any energy at all. Right? So, losing energy vampires, just like blood-sucking ghost, right? Some people suck energy. So, to losing them is the key to the success in your life, my life, everybody's life. Okay. So those guys you should immediately kick out from your life, and I guarantee you 100% that you are going to succeed, no matter what you do. So, okay. So you can read them and see. I'm sure that if you get into this area, that you would be fully prepared in order to meet the challenges of innovation and startup. Cultural aspect is very important. Many of us have been hearing about Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially after COVID-19. Atmanirbharta, है ना? सुना है सबने Atmanirbhar Bharat and all. What do you think? I already gave you example as to why we could not be Atmanirbhar 10 years ago, but now we are saying we want to be Atmanirbhar. Why? How? I mean, what changes? It's not our education system has changed overnight. It's not like our processes have changed. It's not like quota coaching classes have changed. None of that has changed. And they are not going to change tomorrow. So what has changed? So I think if we look at the cultural aspects, so important. Because Atmanirbhar is not possible without Atmavishwas, self-confidence that we can do it. Not only we can do it, but we will do it. Atma Samman, people who have no self-respect cannot respect others. It is very clear. So therefore, people who have confidence and people who have respect for themselves will also respect others. And this is so important. I have not heard that, every parent is saying, my child did horribly in exam. I asked them what? They say only got 95%. And I'm totally shocked. I said, if somebody gets 95% and parent is complaining, there is something wrong with the parent, not with the child, right? Because he's saying, no, wo neighbor ne bola 99% aaya hai, right? This is so horrible and silly, right? This is how we suck out the confidence from people. See, I mean, if somebody in the West would get 95% marks, people, the whole mohalla is going to celebrate. Okay, they say, what a great guy. Even people got 60%, they will be very happy, I'm telling you. So they would bring confidence in their way of dealing with each other. This is so important. If we cannot appreciate people, if we cannot praise them for who they are, then we are not going to make a society which has Atma Vishwas in it. So important. I have seen so many stupid people, I mean stupid in the sense of IQ or training, but they have the confidence and they are going to pull it off. When I have seen so many intelligent people are not able to do it because they never thought that they can actually do it. This is so important. And finally, Atma Chintan. Atma Chintan, which is not same as Chinta. People should be worried about all the time, about Chinta and all that. Chinta is negative, Chintan is positive. Chintan is evidence-based, is data, is based on analysis and so on. What we call the scientific temper. Now, scientific temper, a lot of people think scientific temper has something to do with miracles and stuff. Don't believe in religion and miracle is called scientific temper. What do you think is scientific temper? Scientific temper basically means a dispassionate data and evidence-based analysis of my decision making. Every scientist, every professional working in the office may have scientific temper. But as soon as we come out of that lab, our scientific temper goes for a toss. What I mean by that is, if I am chairing a recruitment committee and my niece is one of the candidates or my nephew, right, then my scientific temper goes for a toss immediately, right? So I say, there are maybe better people, but I'm going to choose my nephew. This is not scientific temper. And this is what pulls us back as a nation, because our what you call behavior, the scientific temper is not reflected in our behavior. It is only reflected in our professional work, somewhat, right? We cannot build actually a nation which is empowered unless we recognize the right person for the right job, regardless of favors, regardless of pull. वो एक पुराना गाना मैंने सुना था. I don't know if you guys know it. I think Shammi Kapoor or somebody said, "जान पहचान हो, जीना आसान हो," right? जान पहचान हो, जीना आसान हो. So that all has to do with all these undue favors that our society dishes out to even incompetent people. Never one should accept that kind of behavior. Okay. Another very big challenge to our society is the lack of diversity. What is diversity? Now, I mean, if you see in engineering, a whole lot of areas of engineering, including artificial intelligence today, the participation of women is horrible. I mean, it's like less than 20%. Okay, so even some of these areas, there may be more women in undergraduate studies, but as you go forward, there's a glass ceiling, right? So you don't find as many managers, you don't find as many general managers, vice president, presidents, whatever you, right? So the density drops. And so this is a very, very serious challenge. So unless we had diversity of age, of gender, of geography, of the languages that people speak, the food that they eat, and all of that, unless we are comfortable with diversity and in fact actively promote it, you would not make a society which is empowered. I have seen some bicycles that run on one wheel, but that's only in circus. If you were to have a real bicycle, it must have two wheels and properly balanced. So how do we do that? I mean, people have these stereotypes, they have these biases. And we just keep saying, no, diversity would we dilute excellence? This is so stupid. Okay, I can prove it in many different scientific ways about how it is so stupid to think of diversity as diluting excellence. Let me just give you one example. If there is an optimal design for people, there is only one model that we want because that's optimal, because the most intelligent, is the most, has got the most muscle and has got everything, then everybody should be a clone of such a person. You should have no diversity. That is very good, but the first virus that kills you will also kill me, which means that no matter how optimized you are, under changing circumstances, you would not remain optimal. You would not remain robust. To have a robust society that can deal with different challenges, which has different perspectives into problems and their solutions. Unless we have that, we don't even know all our problems. Because all our problems are defined by one kind of gender. Okay, they think in a particular way. They are all defined by one kind of age group, if you would, and so on, and they think in a different way. So in fact, when I was working in the government, or now, any committee that we would make, we make sure that there are different ages in it. Let's say younger people and young people. Younger people bring more energy, young people bring more experience. So therefore, there is a good combination of energy and experience, and that's the only way to succeed. And similarly about gender and so on. Let us define how different societies have been working. So each society has been defined by the Industrial Revolution which preceded it. The first society, I may call it Society Zero, was based on muscle. Okay, so I'm a barbarian, I got a sword, I just come in and take what I like, right? So therefore you had to excel in muscle in Society Zero. In Society 1, 2, 3, it is the rise of materials and energy sources which defines what kind of society we make. Right, the society we live in and beyond is totally defined by who controls the creation, flow and ownership of data, information and knowledge. So the new raw material is actually data. There is a whole pyramid of knowledge. Everybody know pyramid of knowledge? Pyramid of knowledge basically means, look, at the bottom of it is data and measurements. From data and measurements we extract information, which is useful. From information we extract knowledge, which tells us how to interpret all this information. From knowledge we extract control over knowledge in order to turn it into opportunity, which is called innovation. And then beyond that lies wisdom. And beyond that lies enlightenment, or whatever you may call it. But this is the pyramid of knowledge. So our understanding of this world is not based only on data and measurements. It is based on information, is based on knowledge, is based on wisdom about how to use that knowledge. It can be used in many different ways, isn't it? So all of this is not going to be taught in the classroom. It's not going to be taught in classroom. It's not going to be discussed in the canteens. Nobody has got patience or time or worry about discussing any of it in canteen. Because if you do that, you would be considered antisocial and would be totally kicked out from there. They're saying, what kind of nerd is this guy? talking strange things, right? Isn't it? How are they called nowadays? We used to call them nerds. Nerds. Then they are sometimes called dorks. Sometimes they are called, I don't know, what do you call these people? Who are just very, people think they don't fit in because they are very good, they are intelligent people, and they are talking some strange things all the time, right? How are they called? हाँ क्या बोलते हैं हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं पढ़ाकू तो खैर वो एक दूसरी चीज़ है I need to stop very quickly, right? I stop. I never ask people how much time I have left. So last time when I did that, somebody said, take your time. Then I spoke for 3.5 hours. Okay, so I don't want to do that. I certainly don't want to torture you beyond a certain point. But okay, so let's go here. Last year, I was chairing Science 20, S20, which is part of G20. So what is it that we, these 20 countries, their top scientists basically collect together in India, and we deliberate on, look, what is really required, what kind of policy is required for science and technology, which can be taken up by the top leadership of each of these countries. G20s represent 85% GDP of the globe. So everything that happens in these 20 countries is how we're going to shape our future. So what were the 3 themes that I had proposed that we deliberate on? One is, of course, clean energy, universal holistic health. What does universal health mean? Universal health means that the last citizen in the country is able to get health. Universal, everywhere. What does holistic mean? Holistic means that it's not only health in the hospital. Okay, it is a health all around. I mean, it's the health of my neighbors, it is the health of my environment, it is the health of animals around me, it is the health of farmland around me. All of that contributes to our health. Okay, so therefore, we just can't think of health only as crisis, which means, hey, when I fall really sick, I need an operation, I go to hospital, and then everything is taken care of. We are ignoring our health and the health of everything around us in a very profound way. So all of that. And the third one, connecting science and culture to society. Connecting science to culture and society, right? This is again something we don't really think about, but how does, you see, society feels totally alienated with science, and science feels totally alienated with society. Because we think of science as only for our livelihood. We only think, hey, I will get a job if I go through this college and do stuff like that. But we have no connection beyond our work in an industry with the society. So how do you create those interfaces for the society to empower with the help of science? Okay? So as we talk about technology of the future, so people saying, look, what kind of technology will come? We don't know what kind of product and technology will come. But I can predict with some great certainty about what the direction of that technology would be. The direction of the technology is determined by the desires of the mind, human mind. Okay, and we all know what those desires are. They are universal. To be healthy, to have quality of life, to be connected with equality, to learn and to apply that learning, to make decisions in complexity, to be entertained, to have a better life, to be happy, to find fulfillment, to create and control my own world. Like if I had a virtual world, immersive world, then I can do it much better than I can do it with my friends. They just don't, I can't control them. I can't create the world in which I want to live, right? So all of the technologies that emerge, for example, to be connected, all the rise of social media. Social media is because of that, right? We were connected very patch-wise, okay, in the good old technological world. There were hardly any connect. Now I'm connected. I have so-called 20,000 followers here, there, wherever. Of course, I may even know 5,000 of those personally. But the point is that this is in response to these needs of the mind that we fulfill them to live long, maybe forever. So digital twins are becoming very interesting and important. And of course, eventually there would be digital twins of people. Okay, this is a very interesting area and would take about 1 hour to explain. But it's clear that these are the desires of mind that find fulfillment in technology. So therefore, if I'm offering a solution, if I have a startup, then I should start thinking about, hey, which of these desires are actually addressed by my technology, by my product, by my by my startup. Okay. I'll come. I don't know how many more slides are there, but anyway, I'll look at this quickly and say a lot of people think that what makes science and technology work is just science and technology. Not at all. Okay, science and technology is necessary, but what makes it work are two different ecosystems, the invention ecosystem and innovation ecosystem. Now the problem in our country has been that invention ecosystem is pretty good. All you bright people are, have the knowledge, you are generating knowledge and so on. But the consumption of that knowledge, the use of that knowledge to create new opportunities is not equally good. So innovation ecosystem is not so good as invention ecosystem in the country. At the same time, policies, rules, laws, structure, processes, vision, connects, and cultural and behavioral aspect, and so on, is the most important aspect. And we will have to focus more and more on cultural and behavioral aspects to basically realize our potential of who we are with all this knowledge. Where do we go with all this knowledge? That's the whole point, right? How do we create new opportunities with it? Okay, so I thought I'll give you a little bit of interesting science because after all we have collected here to do some technology and so on. So one of the things we need in order to convert our knowledge into opportunity is what we call creativity. So we say, hey, we already lack creativity in our education. In fact, if I was very creative, I would not pass any of the exams. I can tell you 100%. Okay, you will not pass a single exam starting from class 2, right? So what does creativity actually mean? Since we have not cultivated it, since it has not been encouraged by anybody to do that, creativity simply means to connect different domains of knowledge to each other in order to create new opportunity. So how do I, it's about thinking new ways. So I'll give you some examples basically about how we do that. This is the story of what is called atomic force microscope. I have worked with it for last 25 years, and this is about the time when it got, commercialized, and it got a Nobel Prize in about 4 to 5 years after its discovery or invention. Right? This is called atomic force microscope to see very small things or nanoscale things. The march of nanotechnology has been made possible by tools like this, which is called scanning tunneling microscope or atomic force microscope. In good old days, you did something good work in science at the age of 30, 40, but you got Nobel Prize when one of your legs was in the grave, maybe at the age of 80. But it's not like that anymore. If we say impactful something like atomic force microscope is immediately recognized by a Nobel Prize. So what is an atomic force microscopy? Basically, when you think about seeing something, you say, I want to see something. What is the concept of seeing? You say, I need light. I need, optical microscope, which means you need light. You need some radiation. Sometimes you use X-rays to see. Sometimes you use ion beams or electron beams to see things. But this is the concept of seeing we have. But if you think about another concept of seeing, which means if I was visually challenged, if I was blind, how do I see? I take a stick, close my eyes, I walk around, I poke the surface, and I see a pressure map, which I translate into a visual map. Right? So there's another way of seeing. Can I use the same concept of seeing on a small scale? So what do I need to do for that? Is that, I have a stick, but the stick is very small, it's a micro cantilever. Right? So I tap the surface all along with that micro cantilever and keeping the pressure So I convert that pressure map into a visual map. And so I can see very small things. And this is basically what atomic force microscopy is. So essentially that we have to inject new ideas, new concepts. When you're able to do that, technology is usually not a limiting case. I mean, if I can think of an idea, I can always convert it into a technology or a product. There's not a bottleneck, basically. So what people are looking for today and in the future are new ideas. And to have new ideas, it requires a different way of education and thinking, wherein you can actually criticize anything, anybody, right? I mean, a whole lot of people who do PhD with me, they have to be first unlearn. So there is a learning that we have undergone, and that learning has very little meaning, I'm afraid. Okay, very little meaning, sorry to say that. And so one has to unlearn in order to inject something new in this world. Okay, so I was going to talk about a story of graphene, which got another Nobel Prize in 4 to 5 years after its discovery. Graphene is the most magical material which has been discovered more recently. Graphene is a two-dimensional layer of carbon atoms. It is being used in almost any kind of material today. How many people here have heard about graphene before? Oh, wonderful. Okay. So how was it discovered? See, so people were taking a block of graphite, and people want to work on graphite, so they need a clean block of graphite. To get a clean block of graphite, you put a tape. You know these tapes with which we hang posters. You put the tape on the surface of graphitic block and peel the tape and throw away the tape. That way all the dirt, etc. from the surface has been removed. So you can steady the block of graphite. Okay, that's what people have been doing for a century. These people, they did something else. They threw away the block of graphite and they kept the tape. Then examined that under a microscope. And you find graphene, right? So whole question is, lot of time, we all do experiments, right, in our labs. What I call those experiments are they are called Mickey Mouse experiments. They are Mickey Mouse experiments because we already know the outcome of those experiments and we know how to interpret those experiments. So therefore, when an experiment does not give us the desirable outcome, what we say is that experiment has failed. There is no such thing as a failed experiment. There is a failed theory. But there is no failed experiment. Because experiment is what happens in reality. So in fact, the failed experiments are the best experiments to learn from. Because I say, hey, I didn't know how to explain this particular experiment, how to explain its failure. It's only from failures that we learn. I have not seen anybody learning from any success. So this is how it is. I'll give you one final example. So I worked in nanotechnology for about quarter century now. One of the aspects of nanotechnology is nanofabrication, which means to make small things. Now making small things is very hard. If you want to make 10 nanometer object, a complicated device, for example, it would be very hard. You require millions of dollars of worth of equipment to be able to do that. So I said, look, let's talk about some crazy idea. So this is a movie I saw in 1980s. It's called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So I said, why can't we make something big and shrink it? Okay, another way to make small things. I mean, it looks crazy, okay, but you could do it. So what I'm saying is that the idea is the most important aspect, not its execution. Execution will come, right? How do we execute this idea to make something big and shrink it to make something small? To do that, well, I mean, you take the object that you want to miniaturize, then do molding with a gel, right? So create a negative replica of it, then shrink that gel because of drying, then you make another positive replica of it, and so on. You do it 4 times, you will shrink the object by 1 order of magnitude. So it can be a complex device, it could be a complex object, you could do all of that. So whole point in doing this is saying, look, always be excited about doing things. People say, hey, how do things happen? I said, things don't happen because of my IQ. They don't happen because of my training. They happen only because of your passion. and your way to think about even absurd ideas and convert them into reality. So there is no such thing as impossible dream. The most important thing, nothing like impossible dream. Now, anyway, since we also wanted to interact, so I would pass all of that. I want to give you one final example of how policies are so important, and because new policies are happening all the time, which is what is empowering our nation. I'll give you one example because it's so simple to understand, and it is a policy that I had contributed to making while working for the Ministry of Science and Technology. For 100 years in this country, the business of doing surveying and mapping was totally controlled, which means it's regulated, it's over-regulated, which means, it just simply said from the days of British, it said no Indian, nobody, public or private, can do surveying and mapping unless you have approvals from the government. These approvals are very tedious, from Home Ministry, from Defense, from IB, from whatever you. It may take 8 months. Even for the government departments who are executing big infrastructure projects, it may take 8 months. Imagine the impact on economy of that. And also imagine as to why we want to regulate this sector when the whole world actually knows our map. Now I want you to stop and think for a moment. The maps that we use, it is our data, isn't it? The maps that we use is our data. The maps and the algorithms and software for it has been created in Bangalore by Indians. It's Indian data, it's Indian creators. I have talked to all of them. But monetizing that data is not done by any Indian company. So, have you ever thought about it? And there are many such examples when you go around and you say, hey, what the hell is going on? It's not because I lack science and technology. It's not because I lack skills. It's not because I lack human resources. And it is my own property which is being monetized by somebody else. So what is the answer to this? Answer to this is, when I looked into this problem, I said, because we have mapping policy, which says that you cannot do surveying and mapping unless you do all this. But whatever it is that you are trying to hide is freely available to the rest of the world. So because the technology has gone in a different direction and we have not kept pace with technology as society, that we would suffer. You see, always remember in your life that technologies today are exponential. They go like this. But the human mind and society and our response to that technology is linear with a small slope. So he is going like this, he is going like this. There is a mismatch between the two. So unless we can negotiate the change, if we are ready for the change that happens and we can leverage that change, there would be very slow progress. And remember, we can't have slow progress. Next 25 years are critical for this society and for this nation. So what did we do? We totally made a new policy for surveying and mapping, which is complex, is complicated, but let me sum it up in one line, one sentence, which says, no approval is needed by any Indian entity, public or private, for surveying and mapping, including 3D street views. Remember, we didn't have 3D street views like other countries because it was totally regulated. We don't need any approval. Any Indian entity does not need any approval for surveying and mapping today unless that area has been declared out of bounds by a competent authority, which means security considerations. Nothing amusing about this. This is, what do you think is the impact of this single line policy on the economy of the country? Can you guess? Is it thousands of crores? Is it tens of thousands of crores? Or is it 1 lakh crore? No. Tens of lakhs of crores. And I'll tell you why. So this scheme, which, after that it started, launched by Prime Minister, is called Swamitva. Half the rural population in the country does not have ownership papers for our land, which means blood feuds. Many of you have been running your cases in High Court, in the District Court, in the Supreme Court, and killing each other because we have no ownership papers, and the huge amount of corruption at grassroots, from Tehsildar to Patwari, which totally controls our lives, right? At the same time, I am sitting on this piece of land I cannot monetize. because I cannot go to a bank and use this as a collateral and say, look, give me loan. I cannot take loan against this, so I get into this local lenders, the sharks who would suck blood out of you totally in 2 generations. So now it is all possible because we are doing surveying and mapping digitally by flying drones and by having LiDAR. And so with a 5 centimeter accuracy, the entire country is being remapped. This had never happened from the times of British. And in those days, technologies were very different. So whole point is you must have the will of society and a policy that makes your science and technology work for you. I guarantee you within 5 years, you would have Indian maps by Indian companies which are far superior to the maps that we are using today for services, for infrastructure, for ownership of our land. So it is basically reclaiming our land, which is just like gold sitting in my locker, which is doing no productive purpose. But once I have this, all of this is going to come in the market. Money will start flowing from urban areas to rural areas, and so there is a newfound prosperity in the country, which is orders of tens of lakhs of crores. Okay, let's. I was going to talk about careers and jobs, but we don't have time. So let me take that as questions or discussion, right? Let me just say 2 things about facing your first interview. How many people may have interest in that theme? Nobody looking for interview and jobs? Okay. Right. I thought it was the most important thing in one's life is to get your job. I tell you my experience. So I had I graduated in 82 from one of the IITs. And so there's is the biggest engineering company. This guy was interviewing me. They said, tell me about this, pump or something, right? So I told them, look, I don't know anything about pumps, but I know about heat exchangers. Moreover, if you allow me 2 hours, I will go learn everything about pumps and I'll tell you. So basically what you want to convey is that nobody knows everything, but where is your strength? Second thing you want to convey is that you are a learner. Which means while you don't know this, but you can learn anything in a reasonable time frame, and then you are able to answer all their questions. So this is very important. Confidence together with the fact that you can learn, you have the capacity to learn, and that you also have strengths. Some things that you have learned better, which may be more relevant for them. So in any interview, don't keep quiet. I think it is somebody asking you some question and simply say, hey, I'm feeling so bad. I don't know anything about it, right? At the same time, you have to know about the company with which you are interviewing. So this is called know your client, know your customers, right? KYC. So if you know what that company does, then you are able to connect with them much better. And that's so important. I even know for jobs like top jobs, like this commissioner, that people come totally unprepared for interview. They don't even know what they're interviewing for, or what is the reason for that, right? So if you just take care of these 3 things, you will get the best job there is, and develop soft skills, which are communication, self-motivation, leadership, responsibility, teamwork, conflict resolution, flexibility, ability to work under pressure, decisiveness, and problem solving. These are the most important soft skills. They are more important than all the stuff that we have learned in any of our courses and textbooks. Definitely. Because what is learned in course and textbook will be forgotten within 4 months after the course is done. How do I know that? Because I have done all these courses and I forgot them in 4 months. So therefore it's so important that we develop all these skills about learning, about soft skills. This is the last part of my talk. And what I want to convey here is that the world in which we live today, that world is not very different from the world 100 years ago. So a lot of people think that, hey, because there is technological progress, that means we are somehow more developed. Okay, and our concerns somehow are different. They are not. So the world of, for example, Jagdish Chandra Bose, the world of C.V. Raman, they are no different from the world in which we live today. Indeed, the world in which we live today is no different from the world 5,000 years ago. And so that looks like a drastic statement to make. It is true in a certain sense. What it is true about that is that our concerns of the human mind remain the same as they were 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. To give you an example, everybody wanted to become prosperous. You could do that in those days of technology by using a sword. So by killing your neighbor and taking his or her property. Okay, today after that you said, look, I got a tank, I got a missile, but my objective is the same. Okay, I can do it with a different technology, but your objective and the quality of mind does not change. The challenges of mind actually do not change at all over centuries, over millennia, over what we have. This is a critical thing to recognize, because sometimes we are thinking, look, by just doing more technology, by buying more product, I will be able to solve my problems. Nothing is a greater misunderstanding of human existence than this assumption. Okay, so anyway, we don't have time to get into that, but just to say, let me give some quotes. J.C. Bose, very great scientist of the country. Unfortunately, for the last 100 years, we have not produced great scientists in this country. Okay, after C.V. Raman, for example, and all of that has to do with the cultural aspects. We have much better institutions today. We have much tougher exams today, right? I mean, anybody competing in your kind of exams today must be really a genius. Okay, I mean, total genius. So we have better infrastructure, we have more training, we have more people, but we have not produced good scientists. And that entirely has to do with the things that we have been talking about, nothing to do with institutions. Okay. So this guy said, his boyhood's hero Karna, my life has been one of combat and must be to the last. It is not for men to complain of circumstances, but bravely to accept, to confront, and to dominate them. Okay. How admirable is the Western method of submitting all theory to experimental verification. That procedure has gone hand in hand with the gift for introspection, which is my Eastern heritage. Together, they have enabled me to sunder the silences of natural realms, long uncommunicative. This is about the balance of life. So people sometimes go hyper. They say, nee, only this thing is good, only the leftist thought is good, only rightist thought is good. It's not about that. It's about understanding both and having the right kind of balance between the two. And so these people were able to do that. Today we are unable to do that, because a lot of people just have no understanding either of left or of right, to much less of that. Similarly, another of his quotes, which says, by continuous achievement alone we can justify our great ancestry. We do not honor our ancestors by the false claim that they are omniscient and had nothing more to learn. All knowledge is dynamic knowledge. Okay, no matter what we call it traditional wisdom, whatever, everything has to be evidence-based and it has to be dynamic, so it gets better and better all the time. It would be our worst enemy who would wish us to live only on the glories of the past and die off from the face of the earth in sheer passivity. Nothing can be more vulgar, more untrue than the ignorant. Okay, let's go past that. Now, welding art and science. You see, most of the problems that we talked about today, overarching challenges of global challenges, they are not solved only by science and technology. They also need social science. They need humanities. They need all of that aspect in order to be able to solve societal problems. And so he's combining art and science. He says the poet is intimate with truth, while the scientist approaches awkwardly. Come someday to my lab and see the unequivocal testimony of the creskograph. So creskograph, those of you who don't know about it, please read, do Google, and it's very interesting. Now, at the time when J.C. Bose was working, he came up with the idea that plants also have life. Now today it may look like a mundane idea, you say everybody knows about it, but imagine to say something like that in those days, people will call him mad. They will say, this is, no, it's a pseudo scientist, this pseudo science, it is not possible, and stuff like that, right? So, but he had the confidence to be able to pursue these kind of ideas which are unorthodox. So it says that charts of my crescograph are evidence the most skeptical that plants have sensitive nervous system and varied emotional life and countless appropriate responses to stimuli. And finally, capacity to endure through infinite transformation must be innate in that mighty civilization which has seen the intellectual culture of the Nile Valley of Assyria and Babylon wax and wane and disappear, and which today gazes on the future with same invincible faith which we met in the past. This is so important if you read. You know what a gem it is actually. This civilization that we inherit, all the contemporary civilizations totally disappeared from the face of this earth during the same period of time. Only India was able to maintain that cultural continuity, if you would, the tradition or so on. And about being positive, that we have been talking about, the past shall be reborn in a nobler future. We stand here today and resume work tomorrow, so that by the efforts of our lives and our unshaken faith in the future, we may all help to build the greater India yet to be. This is still a task which is unfinished, which is why I am saying it's as relevant today as it was 100 years ago. And then C.V. Raman, for example, said, I am the master of my failure. If I never fail, how will I ever learn? I mean, of course, neither success nor failure are permanent. Okay, some people get a little bit success, they get very puffed up. They say, I am top of the world, I am this and that, I am so a great guy, I am earning $1 million. Whatever it is that the person is doing, it means nothing. Okay, success without quality has no meaning at all. Right? People get success by fluke, as I said, by luck, so to say, right? It is the quality that we have to focus on, not success. Okay, it's the quality and how it helps other people. My success is the thing that one has to focus on. You can't always choose who comes into your life, but you can learn what lesson they teach you. Power of ideas. The essence of science is independent thinking, hard work, and not equipment. When I got my Nobel Prize, I spent hardly 200 rupees on my equipment. And I would again like to reiterate, today, in today's world, than ever before, it's a new idea only that matters. Nothing else. The rest of it is recycled junk. Okay, anybody can do it, and anybody will do it, and you cannot compete with the world with infrastructure alone. Where everybody has got better infrastructure than I do, so I need to have ideas which are new. And then, okay, confidence. We have, I think, developed an inferiority complex. I think what is needed in India today is the destruction of that defeatist spirit. This is what C.V. Raman said. Oh, by the way, I can conclude now, but I just want to ask you an honest question. I mean, you go somewhere, right? You go to a gathering, you go to a conference, a workshop, or any kind of gathering. You see some people there who have a different skin color than you. Don't you get attracted to them? Right? I have seen this empirically by experiment. So there may be some professor from abroad, and everybody thinks that he is the genius, right? Where if you go to his country, they are saying Indians are the genius, right? Okay. So this is such a strange thing. I mean, I've seen this because I said, look, we developed an inferiority complex. This may have been, it's about time to lose it. It's been like 100 years ago, right? Now, you being an Indian should be really proud that all the geniuses who are heading all the top global companies are coming from here. They are not coming from somewhere else. And so the question we have to ask is, why are those companies not here in India? Why are they somewhere else? Why are we successful somewhere else and not here? It's a very simple question. And the answer is behavioral and cultural again. So unfortunately, we can't get away from it. And we say, look. Okay, so I think this may be the last quote of C.V. Raman that I found appropriate. We need a spirit of victory, a spirit that will carry us to our rightful place under the sun. A spirit which can recognize that we, as inheritors of a proud civilization, are entitled to our rightful place on this planet. If that indomitable spirit were to arise, Nothing can hold us from achieving our rightful destiny. So that's it, and I stop there. And this is my another interest in life is to do painting. Okay, so once I retire from being a professor, hopefully I can sell some of these to you. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Oh. Okay, so we are ready for interaction. Yeah, go ahead. I see a hand up going there. Harshvardhan? Okay.
Sir, my question is, sir, how do we find the solution of any problem? Sir, I means you told us that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I forgot to tell about that. After a lot of thinking, I thought there are three ways of solving a problem. That in Hindi I call Jugaad, Dhanda, and Panga. Jugaad, we have been relying on that kind of solution for a long time as a society. But we must recognize that Jugaad is not an optimal solution. It is not a globally acceptable solution. It is not a scalable solution acceptable to all. So we need Jugaad in order to survive another day, to take care of a critical problem, and they say die another day or live another day. Okay, so by hook or by crook is what we call Jugaad. Another way is Dhanda. So Dhanda is business as usual, which means, okay, another year I'll do 5% growth, 10% growth, 20% growth at the most. This is called Dhanda, business as usual. All the challenges that we have ahead of you in the future, they cannot be resolved by Dhanda alone. Look at the problem of climate change. Business as usual will not take care of it. It has not taken care of it. Okay, now we say, look, we got new cleaner technologies, which basically means that you have less emission per GDP, or per consumption you have less emission. But total consumption is increasing. That's not a problem of technology, right? So therefore, Dhanda, which means having a better technology, has still not solved the problem of greater emissions. They are still increasing, right? Even though for last 20 years we say we have better technology, okay? So, okay, and the third one is Panga. Panga is disruptive solution, and I wish that we do at least 20% more Panga in the society as a whole, which means new ways of solving the old problems. And so unless we have a lot of Panga going on globally and in our society, we would not be able to solve the problems and their scale with the scale and speed that we need to do that. That should be fairly clear to everybody, which means we have to come out of our shell a little bit and saying, look, I'm just going to do things differently. We are always focused on success and we want little success. But little success is what is called Dhanda. If you want big success, then you have to take risk and fail and do Panga. Okay, that's all. Like we did Panga with this geospatial data policy. For once and for all, totally deregulated the sector by saying no approval would be needed for anything, right? So unless you are willing to do Panga, which is not always acceptable to a lot of stakeholders who have vested interest in continuing the same structure, you should be able to do that and fail. That's okay. There was this stuff I read in high school. I'm trying to recall. I think it was Hemingway. He says it's better to have loved and lost than not to have loved at all. It's very simple. Okay, so I mean, you see, if you want to do something big, take risk, and what happens, fail is okay, right? Move on from there, from failure to failure. That's a good life, actually. Yeah.
Sir, how India can contribute in the field of quantum technology in this mission?
How India is doing? So like I pointed out that there is a mission which is worth about 8,000 crores rupees, which is setting up these centers in quantum technology, technology is still to be implemented, but it's going to happen within the next year, right? So there are different components of quantum technologies. The most obvious one that people talk about is quantum computing. To my mind, the full potential of that is not going to be around for next several decades. Because if you know about quantum computing, basically you have to maintain the coherent states, right? So I mean, without collapse. And so that's the hard problem of technology. You may go to 100 qubits and thereafter, but also that quantum computing today, computers today are not general purpose. So they are not superior in everything, but only certain kind of computing, and especially in cryptography, which is a very important area. So anyhow, our objective is to make, under this mission, that they would develop and make 100 qubit quantum computers, okay, with the industry support, public-private partnership. The second aspect of quantum, which is more realizable within, let's say, a few years, or certainly within a decade, is quantum communication. So the communication going through satellite as well as my landline, as well as my mobile, all of that, if I can create secure communication through this, right, quantum means, that's a low-hanging fruit. And that's already happening a lot. The third aspect is quantum devices and materials. And for example, superconducting materials are quantum materials. So it's again about the coherence, the coherence of states, right, that allow basically no resistance for the current flow. And similarly, quantum devices. And finally, there are quantum algorithms that you run on classical computers. So basically, they mimic the quantum computing, right? But they are run on classical computers, but the algorithms are basically how a quantum computer works. Okay, so all of these are under scanner. All of them are being seeded, so to say. We are not very far behind than the global benchmarks in quantum technologies. We are about, I would say, about 5 years behind. Okay, so it is totally possible to catch up on this gap. One of the problems of our technology historically have been that we wake up too late, right? When the horse has bolted the stable, so to say. So we wake up too late, too little. In this particular case, I think we still are in the running. Yeah.
Sir.
And by the way, when you are asking anything, I want to discuss.
Good afternoon,
There
sir.
is no taboo subject. Huh? You can ask anything. Okay, anything under the sun. You should not hesitate to say, look, I can't ask this, right? Get around LKK syndrome. LKK syndrome I learned. I was once, I was discussing with a room full of women entrepreneurs. People who are into startup, but women. And so one of them said, our major problem is LKK. I said, what is LKK? They said, log kya kahenge? Peer pressure. Okay. Log kya? Peer pressure actually governs so much of our life that, all of you recognize that, right? I mean, for example, it starts from don't ask questions in the class because all your peer group is saying, what kind of nerd is this guy asking questions, right? So, all of this peer pressure shapes our destiny and our behavior totally. But you must not, because all your friends will disappear. They have their own lives to live. All your parents will disappear. Your friends will disappear. Your teachers will disappear. You alone will remain with yourself. So therefore, don't give any attention to all of what these people say. Okay, unless they threaten you on gunpoint. Okay, that's a different thing. But otherwise, just be your own man or woman. And so please go ahead and ask what you want.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, my name is Shaurya Singh Rathore, and I wanted to ask, as you
Where are we?
mentioned,
No, but you had a question, no, here? He was asking first. I didn't even hear his question. Please give him the mic here first.
सर थ्रू आउट दिस सेशन इतना ही समझ में आया कि मेजरली हर किसी भी टेक्नोलॉजिकल फील्ड में भी या फिर कुछ भी हमें चेंज करना है तो सोसाइटी पहले आती है जिससे हमें चेंज करना पड़ेगा, सोसाइटी से ही फेस करना पड़ेगा. जैसा कि आपने बताया ग्रीड, एपैथी और इन सबको हमें फेस करना पड़ेगा.
हाँ.
तो एज एन इंडिविजुअल या फिर एज ए इंडिविजुअल भी हम क्या स्टेप्स ले सकते हैं और गवर्नमेंट्स भी क्या स्टेप लेती है इसके लिए?
बिल्कुल सही क्वेश्चन है आपका. हम सब ये सोचते हैं कि हमारी इंडिविजुअल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कुछ भी नहीं है, ज़ीरो है. वो किसी भी तरह से मैं अपना मतलब 2 मकान बना लूँ, 5 कार कर लूँ, मेरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी सिर्फ ये है अपने प्रति. ये सब लोग सोचते हैं. और एक्चुअली इसमें मैं कोई मॉरल जजमेंट पास नहीं कर रहा, क्योंकि ह्यूमन माइंड ऐसे ही वायर्ड है. सो इफ़ यू से कि ऐसे सेल्फिश नहीं होना चाहिए, भगवान बुद्ध आए चले गए, गांधी आए चले गए, राइट, वो काम नहीं करता. ओके, वो काम नहीं करेगा अगर आप कहेंगे कि अरे भाई क्या है ये, तो मैं तो यही करूँगा. सो देयर इज़ ए इंडिविजुअल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. फॉर एग्जांपल क्लाइमेट चेंज. सो यू कैनॉट से कि क्लाइमेट चेंज सिर्फ कोई गवर्नमेंट करेगी. भाई गवर्नमेंट क्या है, भाई हमारी जो भी जॉब है अगर मैं वो नहीं कर रहा ठीक से, तो मतलब कि गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं कर सकती ना. अगर मैं मान लो कि यहाँ पे सुपरिटेंडेंट हूँ किसी उसका ऑफिस का, तो व्हेन आई गो एंड अप्रोच सम अदर ऑफिस, आई वांट दैट ऑफिस टू वर्क एफिशिएंटली एंड विदाउट करप्शन. बट व्हेन यू कम टू मी, I don't believe in it, right? I say, nahi, I am the boss, right? You give respect to me, you give me money, then I'll do your work, right? So what our expectations from society are very different when we are at the receiving end. But when other people are at the receiving end, we don't have any consideration for them. Other words, I am not discharging my duty the way I should be doing it. So there is a individual responsibility. And let's say climate change में क्या है individual responsibility? What do you think?
सर नॉट पॉल्यूटिंग बेसिकली इस पे ही आता है कि पॉल्यूट ना करो, यू मिनिमाइज योर कार्बन फुटप्रिंट.
देखिए, and see, when would you actually not do it? The whole point is, unless you understand, you see, understand that there is something in it for you, right? And in you, so there is a question, philosophically, there is a question about self. कि ये मतलब self क्या होता है? When we say selfish, no? What is selfish? What is self? If we have not understood what is self, we cannot actually move away from being what is called selfish. Your car is also yourself, right? If I kick your car, you feel the pain, don't you? I mean, you immediately go and kill the guy who had dented your car. Your family is yourself, isn't it? Your parents, your children, your friends are yourself in varying extent. I'm not saying they are same self as your body, but they are all part of yourself. Your community, your college is yourself, your nation, all of that is yourself, isn't it? So the point is, once you start saying, look, without harming me, I am able to contribute to my various selves, right? अगर भाई ऐसा है कि आप दाढ़ी बना रहे हैं, पता नहीं आप बनाते हैं नहीं, लेकिन मतलब उसमें आपने नल खोल रखा है, पूरा चला जा रहा है, इससे इसका मतलब नहीं है कि आपकी दाढ़ी अच्छी बनेगी. अब मैं आई एम ऑलवेज थिंकिंग भाई उतनी देर नल खोलो जब तुम्हें पानी की जरूरत है, isn't it? So therefore there is a collective responsibility and there is also an individual responsibility. The individual responsibility, for example, I may have a lot of money, but do I really need 5 big cars? Right? So I mean, and why are people buying 5 big cars, you think?
Sir, to please their own egos and to
Because they are miserable in life and they don't know how else to make themselves happy other than by doing more consumption. I have never found any of these guys who are basically balanced, happy people, right? They have not understood themselves, much less the world. Okay, so what it means is, look, the car is for going from place A to place B. I can afford much better car, but I keep nano. Why? I don't care about pleasing you. Okay, so whatever serves my purpose, I'm going to do that. Okay, and I'm not going to worry about LKK. Okay, so this is totally stupid. And this total stupidity actually comes because we have no self-confidence. We go by the opinion of everybody. If parent ने ऐसे बोला है, teacher ने ऐसे बोला है, friends तो ऐसा बोल रहे हैं, right? Because see, friends have no idea about what they are talking about, isn't it? So basically, by listening to everybody, you can only be a very average person. Nothing wrong with that. But if we also want to be a little bit above average and want to be your own person, you have to listen to everybody, do your own analysis, and work on that. So climate change is not a problem which can be solved by any government. In fact, government is also elected by us. So if they say anything, if they say, "Arey bhai, only have one child," population is a problem. Suppose your government says have one child, you think that government will come back to power next time? No. This is because, you see, because we are not responsible people. So we can't expect government to be more responsible than citizens. Okay, because citizens choose the government, right? So this is fairly clear. Unless I do some change in myself, no change is going to happen outside. Now I encounter so many people, let's say in ministry, they say, "Arey, you know, my proposal I submitted, it did not receive fair response." But when they are the referees, they don't want to spend any time, right? They say, "Nee, I am selfish. I don't have time for all this, right? I don't have any social responsibility, but I want proper response for my proposal, but I am not giving it to other people." It's very simple, right? No society can work unless there is individual responsibility. The food that I eat, the car that I drive, how many children I have, all of that actually is intimately related to climate change.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah, here.
sir, as you told that India is lagging behind in the generation of scientists, we are lagging since 100 years, and as you are the former Secretary
Yeah.
of Government of India,
Yes.
so what is the core reason behind the development of scientists or generation of scientists in our India?
I have told you all the core reasons. Education has
There
gone
is
horribly
only one
wrong.
core reason other than this
See,
cultural.
it is conformity which is put in by education. If you want to be a good scientist, if you want to do good science, you must have your thoughts which are not in conformity with anybody else's. And but we don't have that training to think independently, to question people. Look, there are two models of learning. One is what I call the Eastern model and the Oriental model. The other is what you call the Western model. The Oriental model has been you sit at the feet of your guru to learn. That is a good model for transmitting existing knowledge. Another model is that you stand on the shoulders of your guru so you can see farther than your guru has seen before, right? There is no disrespect implied in it. You should climb your teacher. You should always have the objective that you must know better than your teacher. Okay, and in order to do that, you cannot sit at his feet metaphorically. You have to stand on his shoulders, right? So when you want transmission of knowledge, you do this. You have, right. Otherwise, you should have irreverence to ideas. I'm not saying disrespect to people. I'm saying disrespect to ideas which are existing. Do we have that capacity to question everything? We don't have it because if I do that, I'll fail all the exams. Yeah. Imagine if I go to a certain place in India, let's say east of India, and I criticize poems of Rabindranath Tagore. What will happen to me? They'll kill me. Yeah, that's what will happen, right? So people, there's another guy, he's got Padma Bhushan or something, because social work, my friend. So he said, I am never angry, he said. So I said, I will make you angry before our lunch is over. He forgot that. I started criticizing his role model. I say, he's got these weaknesses, I got these weaknesses. Believe it or not, within 10 minutes he was so angry, he was red hot. Right? You see, so problem is we are too hooked to our concepts, right? We are too hooked to something or other. And unless you challenge those things, you cannot make progress. If I say, look, that you should be critical of anything, education, anything, I don't mean I'm being disrespectful. I understand. And I also understand what is the reason for it. I understand what is the role that it plays, it serves, right? But we have to go also beyond that. That's what I'm saying, right? So we must encourage independent thinking, not curb it, right? And it may be right, it may be wrong. That's not the question. When there is a lot of independent thinking and independent solutions, some of them would be found to be right. It's only a question of courage to implement them. Yes, anything?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
How come girls don't ask any questions? Okay. They, they are already wise, right? Okay, boys, go
sir.
ahead. Right. Yes.
Sir, why funding becomes a very major reason in failure or success of startups?
Yeah.
Why?
No, why? Because of course funding is critical, but mindless funding is not will not do anything. So what it means is you require funding according to the what you may call the milestone that you are in, right? So if you show that okay that this phase is successful, then to go to next phase to cross the valley of death mostly, that you need funding at an appropriate level, neither less nor more. In fact, sometimes people get greedy. They say, "Arey, okay, somebody is giving me 100 crores, I need only 10 crores, but why I refuse?" That's a recipe for disaster because you have not planned for 100 crores, right? So you should only get 10 crores. I have mentored many successful startups in nanotechnology. So let me also tell you, a lot of people, and this was before, it became a very big fashion, startups, right? So let's say 15 years ago, my own PhD student, I told him, don't become a useless professor. Go do something with your knowledge, right? Because I knew he would make a better entrepreneur than a professor. See, there is a job for everybody, and there is somebody for every job, right? It is a match between who you are and what you would be doing is basically makes it successful or not, right? So anyway, so what I wanted to tell you is that people said, look, this kind of cutting edge technologies, which are hardware based, which are globally competitive, they cannot succeed in a second tier city in India. That was a prevalent opinion, right? But we proved it wrong. I mean, the guy in 2 years was driving a Mercedes on Kanpur roads. Okay? So, see, if you want to have a startup, you want looking for a mentor, approach me. Of course, he gave me 25% shares in his company, which, by the way, I refused because I am an ethical mentor, right? But I don't know if I did the right thing because now this is worth 200 crores, right? See, it's your passion which does all the work. Let me keep repeating it. If you are confident you will be successful, the whole universe will conspire to make it successful. Yeah, what was the question here? Who is next? I mean, hey, there's a girl there. Hey, we'll take that. Yeah.
So you talked about scientific temperament.
Yeah.
So my question to you is like, what could be the reason that even the top scientists out of their labs or professional work, they lack it? And is it a human trait or is developed over time?
Scientific temper?
Yes, sir.
So let me again repeat, scientific temper is a dispassionate, not self-centered analysis of any situation based on data and evidence, and then taking appropriate action based on that analysis. However, we must remember that we are all humans first and scientists later. Okay, so all the weaknesses which are in my mind, okay, they surface because I may believe in something, I say data is telling me this, but it's not in my favor. So I'll take a decision which is not based on data. Okay, so this is where the conflict comes, basically, in my losing my scientific temper. Isn't it? Oh, by the way, there have been many psychological studies. This is very important, guys. Just listen to this. Then you will understand a lot of life that happens in our lives. There are a lot of psychological studies that show that data and evidence do not convince people to change their opinion. Okay. So, I mean, somebody may show you something, they say it's in the newspaper, like this, like that. Say, I don't believe it. Okay. So, to shake my core belief or its foundation, data is not enough. I'll discard the data. Okay. No more questions? You cut the mic? Hey, maybe half a question somewhere here. No? Yeah, go ahead. What? Mic is working. Yeah. Hey, how many are here are using
Hello.
large language models? Chat GPT?
Hello.
Version 3, 4. How many are using Chat GPT here? All the teachers should be looking at it. Actually, it's so fantastic. Because other day I had to give a lecture in a major hospital in Delhi, the Chest Institute. I had to give a foundation day lecture. I don't know anything about chest. Don't know anything about scientifically. So I'm going in the car. On the way I open Chat GPT and I say, hey, tell me all the burning problems in chest science and research. So I got everything. I gave a lecture. Doctors were saying, how do you know all this? I said Chat GPT. And I said, you should also consult all this to keep up to date. Right. So large language models is the future. I've just recommended funding large language model research development worth about 300 crore rupees for the next 3 years. So there'll be a lot more activity in India also, not just Chat GPT that you have to borrow from somewhere else. हाँ बताइए question. Any question here? Yeah. Mike. See what we are doing now is an example of Panga. Disruptive thing. I mean, we're not ending at the right time. Okay, which is okay, right? Yeah, go ahead. I rather have less lunch than cut this session. I'm not saying that for other people, but okay, you go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, quickly.
Sir, if I am having an idea about the startup, so what the first step I should take?
What?
So because I am little bit confused.
Yeah.
Sir, I have having an idea
Right.
of a startup. So sir, what the first step I should take? Because I am little bit confused
Yeah.
that I have to go this side.
I'm
this
so
side.
happy to hear that you're only little bit confused. I would be a lot more confused.
more confused.
Totally confused, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I mean that this requires a long discussion, but to start with, there must be some foundation in the college, right, which can answer all these questions every day. So which means, do we have an incubator? Do we have some mentors? Do we have, connect with the innovation ecosystem? For example, there are a lot of grants. Atal Innovation Mission, for example, they give also to private colleges, right? So we need to know all of this, saying what are the government schemes which are going on, right? Because you as an individual to do this and to struggle on every side become a little bit of a problem. So we need actually some foundation to support you in that, right? So many colleges, universities, etc., even if they are doing it less efficiently, they are doing it. They start doing it, which means that there is some support system available which are able to answer your queries, what to do, how to do, with who to do, and stuff like that. Okay?
Thank you, sir, for developing our nation towards the development and more knowledge to our students, because the nation's voice is the voice of youth. Moving further, I request Dr. Pankaj Dhemla to propose the vote of thanks. Sir, please.
What a mesmerizing lecture, sir. I stand before you with a heart full of gratitude as one of the end of this enlightening and enriching session. On behalf of the Purnima College of Engineering, I extend my warmest thanks to our esteemed guest speaker, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, for gracing us with their knowledge and insight on the topic Science, Technology and Innovation in the New Millennium, Brave New World. We are truly fortunate to have had the opportunity to learn from your experiences and expertise. Your discussion on invention, innovation, and a lot of things I can discuss at this juncture. But the point which you have taken it out on the digital map, I see the future can be unlocked for the next 5 years, and lakhs of crore rupees can come in the Indian economy. I convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Mahesh Bundele, Director PC, for his continuous guidance and support to organizing this lecture. I'm thankful to Dr. Rekha Nair, coordinator of this program, and everyone who played a role in organizing this event from behind the scene to this side of the technical support. Your efforts have contributed to the success of this gathering. To our audience, students, thank you for your active participation and engagement. Your thoughtful questions and interaction have made this session even more meaningful. In conclusion, let's carry forward the knowledge we have gained today and apply in our respective field. Professor Sharma, your insight will undoubtedly guide us as we navigate the challenge ahead. Once again, a heartfelt thank you, Professor Sharma, and all of you for being the part of this enriching experience. We look forward to more such interaction in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable vote of thanks. And I thanks everyone for sparing your valuable time. Most importantly, our chief guest and eminent speaker, Dr. Professor Sharma. And I request the gathering to remain on the seats till the dignitaries leave the center and maintain discipline. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.